Hello, good afternoon. This is Time with PIAC. We are glad you could join us for this month's edition, where we are looking at an overview of the activities of the Public Interest and Accountability Committee for the first half of the year. For those joining our discussion for the first time, the Public Interest and Accountability Committee plays a key role in ensuring the prudent management and use of petroleum revenues in Ghana. So what has PIAC been up to in the first half of the year? We'll get into the details of that shortly. I'll be joined by my guest, and together we are going to unpack and to let you know what we have been doing. Remember, it's a two-way conversation, so we'll be glad to have your questions, your comments, and your thoughts on the conversation as it progresses. We believe that today's going to be very engaging and insightful, so stay tuned. We are starting shortly. So joining me today is Mr. Richard Elima. He's a PIAC member representing civil society organizations, CSOs, and community-based organizations, CBOs. Mr. Richard Elima is also the chair of the technical subcommittee of PIAC. I also have Isaac Jamna Esquire. He's the coordinator at the PIAC Secretariat, and together we are going to be having this conversation. So hello, gentlemen. Good afternoon and welcome to Time with PIAC.
Good afternoon and thank you.
So we are starting off our conversation right away. So before we get into the details of what PIAC has been up to, we just want our viewers to know what PIAC is and what exactly the committee does. So Mr. Elima, I'll start with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. PIAC, or the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, is a citizen-led body established under Section 51 of the Public Interest and Petroleum Revenue Management Act. And it is a unique citizen-led body because it is not a government-led body. Government has no representation on PIAC. It is constituted of 13 members representing different segments of the Ghanaian society. So briefly, we have the Ghana Bar Association, Ghana Journalists Association, CSOs and CBOs, the Ghana Trades Union Congress, the Ghana Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana, the National House of Chiefs, the Association of Queen Mothers, and many, many others. In fact, we are 13 members. And none of these bodies is aligned to government in any way. So that is why we usually say it's a citizen-led body. And on a lighter side, I must also say we are not the same as the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament. There's that easy comparison between our PIAC and PAC. Some people think we are the same. We are not, even though we report to Parliament, but we are not the same as the Public Accounts Committee. Under the PRMA, we have a threefold mandate. One, to monitor compliance with the PRMA. Two, to provide a platform for public engagement. And then finally, to do an independent assessment and report to Parliament and the executive. So that is our threefold mandate.
So Mr. Jamna, I'll bring you in at this point, January to June. But before we even get into what PIAC has been up to, why do you think we should be having this conversation in the first place?
Well, thank you, and good afternoon to our viewers and our listeners once again. Just last week, the Honorable Minister for Finance presented the performance of the Ghanaian economy to the people of Ghana over the past 6 months, as required by the Public Financial Management Act 2016. When you do more like an evaluation over a period, it enables you to see the progress you are making. It enables you to identify any pitfalls, if there are any, and then corrective measures are put in to bring back on track the areas where you have identified the pitfalls. So to look back at the first 6 months of PIAC's work for 2025 enables PIAC to report to the public, but it also gives PIAC the opportunity to assess its work, and then for the second half, let's say to do better or to maintain the tempo if we have attained the tempo that we should attain to be able to reach the targets that we have set ourselves for the year. So for me and for PIAC, to do a mid-year assessment is to enable us look at our performance, evaluate it. Is that what we set out to do from the beginning of the year? We have targets in our strategic plan. Is that what we are supposed to be doing as we enter the second half of the year, which we have entered and have done almost the end of the first month, the second half. If we continue like this, are we going to attain our targets? So these are the driving forces, the reasons behind the act of looking back at the first 6 months of the year of PIAC's work.
So for this conversation, we'll try to group your activities under maybe 4 or 5 different themes to guide our discussion, and then my guest would have a go at each of the areas as it pertains to the function. So we'll start off with monitoring and reporting. So Mr. Lima will take that. When we talk about monitoring and reporting as part of the functions or as part of the activities of PIAC, what exactly goes into it before we even focus on what was done for the first half of the year?
Well, as you mentioned, it's a twofold mandate. One, to monitor. And we monitor to check if what is reported actually does exist. And part of that duty is to go to the field to inspect projects that have been completed with petroleum revenues. So project inspections are a key part of our monitoring function as a committee. So you notice that most times we are on the field inspecting projects, different projects in different regions and districts across the country, projects that have been done with petroleum revenue. And the purpose of that project inspection is to ensure that we are getting value for money, 1. 2, we also look at the quality of the projects. 3, we are looking at the processes that led to the selection of these projects. Were the communities involved, were the district assemblies involved, and out of these inspections, we come up with our report, which we add to our annual and semi-annual reports. And then there's the reporting. The reporting is also a key mandatory part of our functions, as given to us by the PRMA. We do 2 reports every year, the annual report and then the semi-annual report. And there are processes that we go through to get the reports ready. We take data from our reporting institutions, all of them, there are many of them, Bank of Ghana, Ministry of Finance, the DACF, and so on. We get data from all of them. We sit down, we look at the data, we put them together, we bring them to a round table, we validate the data, and then we do our report. So these are key functions. And when I say key functions, they are mandatory functions under the law. I mean, we are legally mandated to produce the reports. So whatever be the case, we have to. So these 2, monitoring and the reporting, are essentially very, very important for our work as PIAC.
So Mr. Jamla, I'll bring you in. Mr. Lima mentioned reporting when he spoke about the statutory reports and then the project monitoring aspect. So for the first half of the year, did PIAC do some project inspections? What did you see? Were you satisfied with the work that was done?
Right, thank you. So, as he said, we are supposed to monitor. And under that, the committee, the first thing I would like to speak about is the compilation of the semi-annual report for 2025, January to June. The committee is required by the Act to produce this report, as he said. So the committee has begun the process, made request for data for the reports. Stakeholders have begun responding, except that the pace of response is slow, but some have begun reporting, some have begun submitting their data, and the expectation is that the data will be analyzed and the committee will produce a report. Then as he mentioned, the projects that have received petroleum revenue funding. The committee inspected projects in the Upper Manya Krobo district. That was a market shed, and then some road projects in that district. The committee also inspected a chips compound in the Sujaman district, and then a road project in that district as well. Then the committee inspected some road projects in the Myong district and then the Yendi districts, both in the northern region of Ghana. So these are the projects that the committee has inspected when it comes to monitoring of ABFA funded projects for the first half of the year. So, clearly, the number is way lower than the committee should have done by the targets as it has set itself in the current strategic plan the committee is implementing. We're looking at, for the first half of the year, we should have done about 32 projects, ABFA funded projects. And here, I think in the eastern region, we inspected about 4 or 5 projects, and then the northern region, about 4 or 5 projects. So even if you take the higher, we are talking about 10 as against the target of 32.
So, Mr. Lima, 10 as against the target of 32. We'll get into the challenges, but let us try to let our viewers have an idea of the 10 projects that we inspected. I know you were part of the team that went to Yendi and then Myon. So just briefly, were you satisfied with the work that was done on the projects that you inspected in the north?
Well, if I'm to assess the quality of these projects, probably I'll give it 40%. We were deeply dissatisfied with the nature of the roads that had been done in the Yendi municipality. We looked at 2 roads, gravel. They were supposed to be gravel roads, but when we got to the road, in fact, we drove on that road. We didn't have an indication of where the road was. So we drove on that road, and I even passed a comment that, this is such a terrible road, only to be told that that was the particular road we were supposed to inspect. So, well, I reserve my comment. But then it wasn't satisfactory. There was another one which had to be tarred, but they tarred it all right, but the rain had washed away, the bitumen. So it was in a very bad shape. Then we inspected 2 dam projects. I mean, they called it dams, but I think the word that best qualified them were dugouts. They were just dugouts. The first one was so bad. I mean, there was nothing to indicate that it was a dam. And whilst there, we saw some members of the community coming to fetch water, and unfortunately, some animals were also drinking the water. And I don't think it's dignifying enough. The second one was a bit more advanced, but I mean, still, it didn't qualify to be called a dam. But all these are projects that had been done with petroleum revenue, and we are concerned about the quality of these projects. So it will be reflected in our reports. I mean, I think either the semi-annual or the annual report. We will report on them, and we hope that Parliament and the executive will act on it, so that going forward, the Ghanaians will get value for money and also have a sense that their petroleum revenues are being utilized in a very judicious and efficacious manner.
So, Mr. Jama will speak briefly to the Eastern Region
projects. Okay, thank you. I was hoping that you would give me the opportunity so that our report will be balanced.
I was definitely going to give you that opportunity to speak.
All right, so let me start with the not too good. In the Upper Manya Krobo district, the projects we first inspected a market shed in Asesawa. The project had been done, but in the state the team found it, there were signs of deterioration. Water was already, the leakages, and the market women were selling under the sheds, but for a project that was about 2 years old, or 3 at most, certainly what we saw could not pass for a project that was that old. The information we had was that the contractor did not, let's say, left site, and some work had to be done later by the assembly before the market women could move in. Certainly, it doesn't reflect very, very good use of petroleum revenue. Then we inspected 2 other road projects. The projects had been abandoned, contractors had left sites. The amount of work that had been done compared to the amount of work that is required to be done to put the road project into such a good state to be used, I would say that the work was minimal. The work was small. There was one particular project, road project, that required so much work. Let's say, drains had been done, but even that, it wasn't all the way to the end. So that one too could not be described as very good use of petroleum revenue. So in total, what we found in the Upper Menya Krobo district could have been better. And it did not, I cannot say, and I'm sure that it passes for the team, we could not say positively that what we saw represented judicious use of petroleum revenue. Positively and fortunately, in the Asujaman district, what we found was way better. The chips compound we found was very well done. The land on which the project is situated was very spacious, and they had put it up in such a way that it was even better than chips compound. I think the officials we spoke to indicated that it was going to be a health center very soon. It was going to be converted into a health center, and it would serve the community very, very well. So that project was a good project. Then the second project we inspected in the Asujaman district was a road project from, I think from to Jakiti, from Jakiti to another community. The contractor was on site, work was ongoing. That one, work had progressed steadily, but because the contractor was on site and we engaged the contractor and he indicated that he had encountered some challenges, but at least to be objective, we could say that work was progressing, work was ongoing, and it was very clear from the observations we made. So we could conclude that the projects we inspected in the Asujaman district were better, and they could be said to represent a more judicious and more prudent use of petroleum revenue than we found in the Upper Menya Krobo district.
So if you are just joining us, this is Still Time with PIAC, and today we are looking at an overview of the first half activities of the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC. My guests are Mr. Richard Elima and Isaac Jamna Esquire. So we started off our conversation by looking at the monitoring and reporting function of PIAC and what activities the committee actually undertook in the first half of the year. So moving on, we are going to look at public engagements. We know that public engagements is a key activity of the committee because it allows people to actually get to know what is happening to petroleum revenue. So maybe Mr. Lima, I'll start off with you. So for the first half of the year, did we do any public engagements at all?
Yes, we've done at least, I think, five public engagements. 2 in Yendi and Mion, and then 2 in Upper Menya Krobo and then Sujaman, and then 1 in Kumasi. We did a regional forum in Kumasi, very well attended, where we explained our mandate and took the participants through our report, annual report, the 2024 report. And then we also did same in Yendi and then Mion. And at each of these fora, the reception was very, very good. There were very insightful questions, and the questions give us the impression that Ghanaians are very hungry for information on how their petroleum resources are being used. And it also gives us an indication of what to change and what to strengthen in our reporting and in our engagement processes. So basically, this is what we've done over the year. We've done 5 public engagements, but it could have been more. It could have been more, but for our challenges, which we'll discuss later.
We'll definitely get to talk about the challenges later. But Mr. Drama, I want to pick your thoughts on this. How effective do you think the public forums that PIAC has been organizing has been in terms of making sure that people get access to information and then to help drive transparency and accountability? Are we doing well?
All right, thank you. So let's say that before I go into that, let's look at Regulation 24.1 of the Petroleum Revenue Management Regulations, LI 2381. It requires PIAC to organize a minimum of 2 public engagements a year. And here at PIAC, when we talk about public engagements in that sense, we are talking about the regional engagements. Programmatically, the committee would have done the regional engagements concurrently. And we would have done the 2, divided the committee into 2 teams, secretary into 2 teams, and then would go to the field, would carry out project inspections, and then we would engage the citizens in the region at the same time. You say we'll come to challenges, so we'll talk about that later. But for this year, we had to do only Ashanti region. And that was funded by or supported by the Good Governance Africa and not from the committee's regular source of funds, which should have been petroleum revenue or the annual budget funding amount. Now, let's also say that it was through public engagements that the committee saw the need and began inspecting projects. I remember that in 2016, when the committee carried out district engagement in 61 districts, in one of the engagements, one citizen, an old woman who attended the program, posed this question to the team. You are telling us that petroleum revenue has been used to do projects A, B, C, and D. The question I'm putting to PIAC is, have you gone there yourselves to see the projects which you say have received petroleum revenue funding? And that is what brought the need for PIAC to begin inspecting projects. And right there on the field, the chair, who happened to be part of that team, decided that then let's look at some of the projects that are in our immediate vicinity and let's inspect them. And that led to the inspection of 6 ABFE-funded projects. And the committee found that 3 of the 6 inspected did not exist. I'm sure this is no news to Ghanaians because it was in the news and a whole lot of hullabaloo about it. So it is the public engagements that brought this up, and the committee has continued doing this. The public engagements also enable the committee to throw more light on what is contained in the statutory reports. Because when we go, we try to engage the citizens in their language. So then you are able to break down the report to the understanding of the ordinary citizen. They ask questions, you explain, and so they are able to appreciate the content of the report much better than they would have done if they had read the report for themselves. Then they also see the faces behind PIAC. I mean, we have heard the name Public Interest and Accountability Committee, who are the human beings behind the names. So it enables the committee to engage citizens at first hand, and there is some, let's say, relationship that is built face to face. Here you are, here I am, and we can get to interact better. So the public engagements afford the committee and its secretariat staff the opportunity to engage citizens and for the citizens to appreciate really what the committee is doing and then its membership.
So, Mr. Lima, I want us to move to the next leg of your activities, and that has to do with your stakeholder collaborations and all of that. For PIAC, how important are these collaborations for your work?
Yeah, it's important for members of the public to know that PIAC is made up of only 13 members, and we can't be everywhere at the same time. So we rely a lot on key stakeholders. That is one. Secondly, the PRMA, the mandate given to PIAC, we are required to work with certain stakeholders. I mean, it's a requirement. You can't just ignore them. So we have our key stakeholders who give us the data for us to work with. So we work together with them to produce the various outcomes that we get. So within the course of the year, we've had, in the first half of the year, I think we engaged, I think only one, if my memory is right, Ghana Gas.
With three, actually, GMPC, and then
Yes.
Ghana Audit Service.
Okay, okay, and Ghana Gas.
Yes, Ghana Gas, yes.
Okay, so these are the three stakeholders that we've engaged. But let me also be quick to add that regular engagement is a key part of our work. Throughout the year, we meet almost all the reporting institutions. Even if we don't go to them to seek audience or something like that, we engage them during the reporting process at the validation phase. So it's something that we do all the time.
So I was actually going to ask about the institutions you engage in the first half of the year, but you already took the wind out of my sail already. So we'll skip that. But before I skip that and go to the final leg of your activities, I wanted to find out from Mr. Drumna, because he has been talking about targets and what we did and all of that. Could we have done more stakeholder engagements?
Absolutely, absolutely. We had targeted to meet NCCE, the National Commission or Civic Education, so that we could explore the opportunity to collaborate with them since they have district offices nationwide, so that where PIAC cannot get to by virtue of our current state, we'll be able to collaborate with them to get there and reach more citizens. There are other stakeholders we should have engaged. Almost all the institutions of state have new leadership because of the change in government. There's need to engage them and build stronger linkages and collaboration for the sake of our work. I am aware that the District Assembly Common Fund wanted to meet PIAC so that they better understand their mandate when it comes to the 5% ABFE that goes to them. And PIAC could not avail itself. We'll come to the challenges. And many others that we could not meet in the first half of the year. You know that PIAC is not clothed with the power to enforce its recommendations. So it is through collaboration that we get some of the recommendations enforced, to get some of the stakeholders to act on some of them. So it is very critical for PIAC to continue with stakeholder engagements and collaboration.
So the final leg of the activities that we are actually going to focus on for the purpose of this conversation has to do with media engagements. I know that it's at the heart of operations at PIAC. Yeah. So the way Mr. Lima is smiling, I want to start with him. We know PIAC is heavily focused on media, because it gives us a wider reach to get to the public. But do you think that our use of the media space has been effective?
Yes, extremely effective, extremely effective. I look at the media engagements we have throughout the year and I'm amazed. Number one. Number two, we use the media to send our messages across. But for the media, I'm sure PIAC could have been in the dark. It's like somebody said in an advert, selling in the dark. The media projected PIAC. The media throws its searchlight on PIAC. Apart from the publicity they give to PIAC as a committee, They also engaged individual members of the committee. They interviewed them on radio, on television, for newspaper articles, and so on. And that also gave PIAC the needed mileage, as a corporate entity. So the media has been very, 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 useful. And again, in response to this relationship, PIAC has also crafted the involvement of the media into its own engagement processes. So we don't use the media, use us in a manipulative way, but we see the media as a partner, as a key stakeholder. So in our regional engagements, we do these media encounters, which have been very, very useful. Useful in building the capacity of the media to report on issues related to petroleum revenue management. Useful to also build their capacity to also monitor projects in their own jurisdictions. As I said, we can't be everywhere. And sometimes some of the key issues that have come before PIAC have been from the media giving us a heads up, and then we do the follow-ups. So they've been indispensable in our work.
So, Mr. Jamna, did we do any media advocacies for the first half of the year?
Yes, we did. We couldn't have failed to do that. Even the report that was published, the 2024 annual report, it was through the support of the media that the committee got the report highlights to citizens. And we take this opportunity to appreciate our media partners. Television, radio. When we went to Kumasi for the regional engagements, we had the opportunity of being on some networks to be able to send our messages across. When we were out for the district engagements and project inspections, we had the benefit of being on some media networks to get our messages across to citizens. So it has the work of the support of the media has been very, very critical in PIAC's work, I should say.
So we will try to draw down the curtain on the conversation. At least we've given our viewers a picture of how our first half actually went. Not so impressive, not the way we would have wished it went. But my guest kept making reference to challenges. So I'll give the opportunity to them now to tell us, what were some of your challenges? For which reason we couldn't really do what was planned? So Mr. Lima will start, and then Mr. Jamna would fill in.
Why do I always get to start? Anyway, I can think of only one big challenge. I mean, with regards to why we couldn't do more, basically it's finance. I mean, seek ourselves. we were deeply fiscally emaciated, sort of. So we couldn't really do the work that we were mandated to do. You look at the law that compels us to do these engagements. We have no choice but to do those engagements. But at the same time, we didn't even have the money to do it. And I keep saying that the government cannot outsource its governance responsibility to any international organization. I mean, this is the responsibility and the mandate of government to resource PIAC. But unfortunately, for the first half of the year, it's been terrible for us. And that is why we couldn't do much. So our biggest challenge has been finance. I mean, I don't know if there are others, but for me, it is a financial situation to the extent that GIZ and Good Governance Africa have to come and support us to do just a few. You check the itinerary for our district engagements. We reduce it by a day. We reduce the number of tours and all that. And I don't think it helps. It reduces the quality of work that we are able to do at any point in time.
Yeah. I don't know. Or you still in line with the funding challenge?
It's essentially, it's at the root of the problem. It's at the root. And for the first time, we went on a regional engagement, no project inspections. We could not do the two that you are required by law to do. You get to districts, and there's a whole lot of limitations. Even the number of staff to carry with you has to be reduced because of funding and all that. I mean, I'm sure that another opportunity will come for us to go into what led to the finance challenge, but it's at the core of the problem is inadequate funding.
But looking into the next 6 months before PIAC, with this finance challenge still persistent, should we expect PIAC to do better in the next half of the year, or we pray and wait? So I'll let Mr. Jamna speak to this first before Mr. Elima will come in.
I was actually going to come in and say, let me start before Mr. I can't say he start all the time. All right, so yes, if there is no intervention to arrest the situation experienced in the first half, we cannot expect different results. It's just like we say in common parlance of late, you can't expect different results when you continue doing the same thing the same way. The committee recently met the presidency, and there were assurances that the situation as experienced in the first half of the year would change. The committee can only trust and hope that the president will keep his promise, will keep his commitment, and let the necessary financing be available to PIAC so that it will be able to do the work that it's required by law to do. But if that doesn't happen, then the results in the second half of the year will be no different from what we saw in the first half.
So before I wrap up, I'll let Mr. Elima have a final word on this.
Yeah, I wish I can be hopeful. We met the president. He was very cordial and very friendly, and he genuinely cared. Yeah. He genuinely cared and promised to do something about it. The only thing I didn't hear, which I've been worried about since then, is a promise to provide us with a sustainable source of funding. He said he would speak to the finance minister to release some money to us. Does it mean that every year we have to visit him, cry out to him, Mr. President, please have mercy upon us, and then he will pick the phone and call the finance minister? Or we actually legislate and provide a sustainable source of funding for PIAC? That is the only missing link, and I'm hoping. We are still in an engagement process. We'll be meeting the finance minister soon, hopefully. It's part of our agenda for the third quarter. Once we meet him, then we'll also put forward our grievances and see if something can be done to amend the law to provide a sustainable source of financing for PIAC so that we can continue doing our mandatory work as required by law.
So just like my guest, we all continue to remain hopeful that things will turn around for PIAC, for the committee to be able to do more in the next half of the year. So thank you for joining today's conversation. We looked at PIAC's mandate, some of the activities that the committee undertook in the first half of the year, and then we got to know that the biggest challenge is funding. But then we are optimistic that things will get better, and then at the end of the year we can come back and then tell you what the committee was able to do in the second half of the year. So before I go, I would like to say thank you to my guest, Mr. Richard Elima. He's the PIAC member representing CSOs and CBOs, and he's also the chair of the technical subcommittee of PIAC. And Mr. Isaac Jamna Esquire, he's the coordinator of PIAC. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me for this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to you, our audience, thank you for tuning in. We believe your participation and feedback is always important to us at PIAC. So let's keep the conversation going beyond today. If you have any questions or comments, you can always reach out to us via any of our platforms. You can visit our website, www.piacghana.org, to learn more about PIAC's work and what we have coming up. You can also send us a WhatsApp on 055-441-6544, and we'll respond to you. Together, let's ensure that we are getting value for money and we are ensuring that our petroleum revenues benefit all citizens. So I'm Jessica Echampon. Thank you for joining us and have a good afternoon.